All right, welcome everybody to day 3 of the 12 days of Christmas. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's been with us the past 2 nights. And I know that people are already jumping on and watching the recordings, those of you that can't be with us live. So we do appreciate that as well. So I think we're off to a great start this year for our 3rd annual 12 days of Christmas. Now, as I've said before, as we kind of roll on, I kind of less and less explain what this is all about, because by the time I get to like day 8, I'm like, if you don't know what we're doing here, I'm really sorry. But either way, 12 days of Christmas, what is it? For me, it was something, as I've said over and over again, something that I came up with, my silly little project, my silly little idea, as I call it, a way to create community throughout this like awkward time of the holidays between Christmas, New Year's, or whatever holiday is that you celebrate. And I think, again, for many of us, it's just a time to sit down, relax, enjoy. And what I've found is that it seems to be something very well needed for many of us, myself included. So again, also for all of you that have taken an opportunity to DM and let me know how much you're enjoying the 12 days of Christmas and our guests thus far, and maybe even what it means to you or what it's helping you with. I really appreciate that, because again, as we always say, and we've said, we were talking about a little bit last night, like, remember, we are doing this for all of you, but at the same time, it's kind of that energy that keeps us going with everything that we do. Farm people, our guests this evening, that affirmation that we get from everybody, knowing that it means something to you, is really all we need and all worthwhile. So don't ever think that your words go unnoticed, and don't ever think that we don't appreciate hearing them. So I thank you. And at some point in time, maybe I'll do some screenshots and share it with everybody. And I do also pass it on to my guests, any feedback that I get from you each night. So with that, we always have a little bit of homework. Maybe housekeeping is a better word, housekeeping, to start off with. I actually have to first tell you guys, today has been a crazy day. Any of you that follow me on social media, of course, completely going off script, but I really need to kind of just get into this, because we actually was up at 4 a.m., left the house by like 4:45, drove upstate New York, quick little 5-hour plus trip, did a couple things there. We have a new addition to the family. We'll make them wait. Gotta keep it suspenseful. It is a new addition to the family. So you'll have to wait to see pictures of that. And then just turned right back around and came home, and literally pulled in my driveway at 6:30 to be on by 6:45. So I just need to kind of like settle into my commentary for this evening. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me on a little bit of a bumpy start, I feel like, as I gather my thoughts and kind of get settled in to the mood for our 12 days of Christmas. So with our housekeeping that we want to remind everybody of, we've got great things. Now, you're going to have to stay till the end of the program. And if you've been with us for the past 2 nights, we never know when the program's going to end. But if you want to possibly be in for a $20 store credit to shop with us at Life, which our guests will be picking a number by the end, you got to be there all the way through to be part of that. So that's one of our prizes, that you got to be in it to win it. Now, on the other hand, remember all of the things that we've got coming up for you this week. We've already dropped the opening of the registration for the 4th Life and Rainbows Knit Along. Many of you have actually already jumped on. That gives you 7 tickets already. So remember, for every $10 that you shop with us throughout this week, that gets you 1 ticket to go into our keepsake basket. And then that is going to be drawn on the wrap-up party, which is January 6th. Now, already we've shared that Kimberly McAlinden, there is a free Cotswold workshop, not the class that her and I are teaching, which there are still 4 registrations open for that, but a free workshop tutorial that's on her website. She has put that in. Last night with Kevin and Ray, we've got 2 skeins of yarn and 2 enamel pins. And then Bob and Jean, our guests for this we have 2 sweatshirts as part of it. Oh, actually, hold That's right. I got to tell you guys, I am so in love with the backpack. I
Oh,
totally forgot. I know.
really?
Oh, I love it. So first of all, a really cool hoodie, beautiful blue color, Newfoundland pony, Conservancy center. And wait, there's more. Seriously, I love this backpack. We got to get some deets on this.
Oh,
A really, really nice like fabric. It's not a chintzy bag. It is like a heavy duty fabric bag, zipper in the front, drawstring, backpack. Totally cool. If you're a knitter, plenty of room for yarn. If you're not a knitter, I would totally rock this. She would totally rock it. So those are the contributions that Bob and Jean have made for us for the keepsake basket. So we'll keep updating you every day about what is in there. And ultimately, again, at the end, it's something from each one of our guests. That's why we call it our keepsake basket. And one lucky person will have their name drawn. And look, it could just be one ticket, or maybe you've got 15 tickets in there. You never know. And stay tuned throughout the week. We've got so many more exciting things coming up for you guys. So, again, we've got 4 registrations left if you want to join Kimberly and I on January 8th for the Crafting with Copfold online class. The open registration for the knit along could just kind of roll along. And outside of that, I think that's it so far. I'm not giving you guys heads up on all the other things coming down the pike. You'll have to just keep joining us to find out. The last thing, remember, is that you've got your code to get you 50% off our skincare for the entire 12 days of Christmas for any time that you want to shop. So that code, and I know Erin will continue to drop it in, is TDOC. 12 Days of Christmas. That actually is a hashtag as a result of my dear friend Gina. Thank you for that. So TDOC 24, because we're still in 2024, and then 50 for 50% off. So that is your code to get you 50% off from now until January 6th. Outside of that, if you order something, just be sure to let us know you're part of TDOC so that we can give you the credit for the keepsake basket. So I think for the most part, that is my homework, housekeeping that I wanted to get across to you guys before we start rolling with tonight's program. I guess the other thing I should probably let people know about who this one is sitting here next to me. Now, for those of you guys that have been with us over the years, this is Alex Brandon. Actually, Alex and her mom, Sally, were a guest with us for the first annual 12 Days of Christmas. Alex's mom, Sally Brandon, has been my longtime spinner of my yarns, well before this one was even in the picture. And as Alex has grown up over the years, we always say our lives have sort of swapped. I was a horse girl. She had sheep and llamas and alpacas. And for many of you, if we go back to some of the yarns that Alex used to design, and back when she was maybe a little more sassy than she is now. She's still sassy. But as she said, whenever I buy the yarns that she designs, I'm investing in her. And then actually that is what now afforded her to then be able to start acquiring horses as she has let go of her sheep and her llamas and her alpacas. So that's why we've switched. I did horses, now she does horses. She used to do fibered animals, now I do fibered animals. And somewhere along the line, maybe you guys have some in your stash. You might remember her yarns to the beautiful names of Unicorn Poop was the first one when she was all of 13. Another one was Yellow Snow. Another one was Whiskey Winter. Another one was Turkey Red. And then actually our last collaboration was the A&T Beach Rock Babes. That was the yarn that many of you ended up knitting a mother's hug in last year for the knit along with Kimberly McAlinden. So part of what I love is how all these things tie in so many different ways. So I knew Alex was going to want to sit in a little bit, hear a little bit about the ponies, because she is a pony girl now. So she's going to be joining. And why she's here, actually, instead of in Kansas, which is where she lives, is because, yes, she's from Kansas. I guess I forgot that part. So we started this, it's like an exchange program, I guess.
Tabitha's boot camp.
It is also Tabitha's boot camp. So Alex started coming and joining me in the summer, 2 summers ago. First it was a week, then last summer she came for a month, and then somehow or other she managed to convince her parents to come for Christmas. So she's been here since Christmas Eve, and she'll be going home on January 4th. So she's been behind the scenes helping me for the most part.
The first week I came, made it a vacation. Last summer I came for a month and I worked my ass off the entire cheering, helping with her Sunday things. Yeah. And
so no more vacation.
No more vacation.
This time's a vacation. Okay. All right. We're going to New York City on Monday, so she's going to see the Big Apple. So we're excited about that. Okay, we're moving on with our program. You can sit and watch. So appreciate all your patience, guys. Lots of things happening today, and it's only day 3. So without further ado, I'm going to give a little bit of background, but then I'm going to let them introduce themselves. As I mentioned to you guys in my stories, tonight's program is going to be a little bit of a diverge from maybe our knitting, crocheting community, but that's what's really fun about it, I hope. Now, it's not going to be too much of a diverge because obviously I know these guys for the fact that I shear their llama. Well, now it's 1 llama. It was 2 llamas, but they also have beginnings in fibered animals and have now transferred over into the pony world, which we're going to hear a lot about. So we're going to kind of cover a lot of ground tonight. I tried to post as many pictures, stories as I could to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what we had in store for you. And again, as I shared with Jean and Bob, I do know that you guys thoroughly enjoy all things animals, all things fiber, and really just the natural curiosity that we all have as makers to be curious about other walks of life, forms of life, other creative outlets that people have. And I think sometimes when I've brought these guests on, those are the ones that I even get the most feedback about because it opens you up to a whole new world. So, and as another farm guest, if you will, we'll definitely be covering all sorts of topics. So to start, I'm going to let Jean and Bob introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you're located. You know, if somebody was to be like, all right, who are you guys? Mostly, could we just note, listen to their accents. I love their accents.
Really?
I love the Boston accent. That's what
Back to cat.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like after all that energy and like we're probably a little more chilled over here right now. We gotta like ramp it up a bit, but we are
New York energy. Don't worry about it. That's the beautiful thing about, you know, New Hampshire, live free and die, right?
Oh yeah. It's like
No, it's live free or die.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you don't want to live free and die.
and die.
We're all gonna die at some point. Okay, but it's Christmas, so Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Absolutely. Same to you.
And you know, we do really want to thank you for having us. I mean, we know that you know so many people and you travel so much, and we feel pretty honored that you thought of us and invited us. So we really want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. Like I said, diversity is key. And that's what I love so much about it. And I remember back when I was with you guys in May, that's where I got the idea. I was like, you guys need to be on this. Not to mention, we always have a great time when we're together. And I always make a point, guys, to stay at their farm. I probably don't care if I have to cut my day half short. Their farm is beautiful, and I love staying there. And we always enjoy each other's company. But I knew it was going to be a perfect addition. So thank you.
And we're glad that you when you come, we're really happy about that. And yeah, I would say, I mean, our farm is certainly diverse. I guess we could start as to maybe how we landed here. Might be a good place to start. I would say it was 2009.
Yeah.
We were living in Massachusetts at the time, and at that time, I actually had 2 horses. However, I wasn't exactly really focused. My focus wasn't really all about riding. I did not go into the show circuit, very little. My focus was actually, I did what was called hippotherapy. So hippotherapy means I was a physical therapist at the time, and I provided, I worked on 2 farms, providing, working with children, very young children from the ages of 1 to 3, early intervention, as well as young people who had had strokes. I went to other farms working with horses, providing physical therapy. So I've always liked that aspect of the equines, as well as riding. I have to say, I certainly do plenty of riding as well. So at that time, I had 2 horses, and Bob will say, you know, he was working in, as you can mention, but in conservation work as an attorney. And we were looking to combine the 2, and we started to look for land in a little bit of a bigger farm, and we ended up here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell about this property a little bit.
Well, I did a lot of land conservation as an attorney, and a friend of mine alerted me to this property here, which abuts Mount Monadnock, that was for sale. And we needed room for animals, and I was interested in more land. She was interested in more animals. And so this is a good fit.
Perfect.
And we've been here for 15 years.
Now remind me how many acres you guys have up there.
It's about 200.
And I say up there, guys, because like literally they are up on top. Now you overlook, are you on Gap Mountain or you overlook Gap Mountain?
We're on Gap Mountain, and you can see Mount Monadnock from here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Mount Monadnock abuts Gap Mountain, so we connect right there together, probably 10,000 acres altogether, abutting our 200 acres.
And
And gorgeous drive up. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous getting up there, and you guys are at the top, correct?
Pretty
Yes,
much.
yeah. Yeah. And the thing that we liked about this, at one point, one part of Gap Mountain was actually part of our farm.
Yeah.
And one of the previous owners donated it to a conservation,
The Forest
Society.
Yeah.
And donated that. That actually used to be part of our farm. They used to turn cows out. They used to let them right out our barn, and they would go right up the mountain. And now, which is really nice, people are up there hiking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you to tie in, because obviously your farm is not open to the public,
Right.
but I know that you talk about the area that you live in, that it actually does get pretty busy for people that might want to come and hike, correct?
They hike. That's another, it's sort of down the road a bit. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, we can come right off our property and go up the same area, but it all used to be part of our farm. And it's just, it's really nice. That was one thing that appealed to us, because it did get conserved, and people are now hiking it, and you know, we really enjoy it. I mean, we can hear people up there at the top of the mountain, sometimes all times of the day, very early sometimes, and it's really quite nice. So that was one thing that appealed to us. And then I'll keep going. That then once we arrived here, and we started to settle in with our horses, we put the word out to our community with here in Fitzwilliam and kind of the, I'll say the Monadnock area, Cheshire County. If anybody, because this was actually a sheep farm before we bought it. In fact, the person had hundreds of sheep.
Oh, wow.
So it had all the fencing for sheep,
pasture.
had all the pasture. So we put the word out. Are there any local people that would like to pasture their sheep here? We'd be glad to host them. So
it's like an Airbnb for sheep.
It was, and it helped us out a lot, because it was like it could maintain. So for the first few years, and this is the part that I didn't think you knew, Tabitha, we had a very large amount of Romney sheep.
Okay.
Yeah, lots and lots of them. So some people that raised.
Was that just from one particular farm that happened to have a lot of Romneys?
There were 2 of them, 2 people, okay. Collins and Jen. Yep. Yeah. And one in particular, she was very into the fiber as well. And then one was probably a little bit more into the meat aspect. And So we hosted them for a few years, and lots of from our standpoint, big gigantic Romneys.
Yeah.
And that was a really nice relationship. And then after that, we just were kind of plugging along, and then we were still in the equines. Like we got a few donkeys. They were rescues. We got some donkeys.
From Save Your Ass. Have you heard of Save Your Ass Rescue?
Save Your Ass
That's a great
Rescue.
name.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. So we were kind of going in that
Great
end.
donkeys.
And then the
To
following,
keep the horses company, you know?
yeah, they were more like companions.
Yeah, comic relief too, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then that next year, it was probably like 3 or 4 years into being here, we put the word out again. And then the group that wanted to pasture their sheep were they were different. They were more like, they were all like orphan sheep, and they were all bottle fed. So it was a local farm, somebody that you shear her llama as well. So that particular family, they would bottle feed sheep. So they were kind of not necessarily purebred or not.
They were
It's kind of a menagerie.
It
they
is. And so they came as well as their llama.
2 llamas.
One
Willow
llama. No,
and-
Willow remember Willow, like an alpaca.
Yes. She was a Warizo.
Okay, then, right.
So
we
for
got
everybody, a
Willow.
Warizo is when it is a cross between a llama and an alpaca. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so that's and so that I only have a handful that I shear. So I used to love when I would have a chance to go up to them after you, because you guys are so close together. And
There was I think they kind of called Willow a oopsie, like,
well, that's usually what Warizos are. They're not
exactly.
intentional.
So then, and then Indy, the llama was here.
Mm.
So again, time went by. So it was really enjoyable. It was a nice relationship. We were also having we didn't have a lot of animals, so we were having a local farmer was coming in and haying some of our pastures for us. So he would come in and cut the hay and produce it for us that we used. But then, as things happened, the sheep stayed on
Yeah,
our.
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, if we jump ahead, somehow or other, the sheep that were supposed to just be there as an Airbnb,
Right.
vacationing,
They moved in.
they were those tenants that you could not evict.
No, and we were
And
actually,
we didn't really
we
want
were
to.
fine
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're bottle fed. They're very approachable.
They're very
They're so
friendly.
easy. They're so friendly.
Yeah.
The only thing was the llamas did not stay.
Right.
So the llamas, and then that is what led, and we really needed guards around here.
What sort, just out of curiosity, what sort of predators do you guys have up on the mountain?
The coyotes are just all the time. There's bobcats. I'd say
We've never had a predation issue with the llamas
with
here,
the llamas.
but the former
owner did
lost a lot of sheep to the coyote.
to the
Do you
coyotes.
guys have, you have bear there too? Yes.
We have
There's
bear.
yeah.
Yep.
Her biggest problem was coyotes.
The coyotes.
We've never had a problem with coyotes since the llamas came here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she had, I mean, the coyotes would come really close to like the barns. Like they were, it was a real problem. They were taking out her lambs all the time. And we never had that problem. I got 2 guard llamas.
I was gonna say, and so I'll just jump in. I mean, I would think a lot of my people understand how the llamas work, but just so that maybe somebody who doesn't understand. So when you have even goats, their instinct is to flee in any type of danger, whereas a llama does not have what we call a flight instinct. So instead they stand their ground. And a lot of times it's just their size alone will help to deter a predator. But if need be, a really good guard will put themselves in between the imposing predator as well as in between what they see as their family. And then
Yeah.
not that, because all of you know llamas are not aggressive or mean in nature, but if need be, they can strike with their feet, they can spit, they can charge, scream, and so they can act to protect. So that is how llamas are considered sentries or livestock guardians. In addition, people can also use dogs and can also use donkeys, as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of preference, and then what works for your facility and what you want to look at too.
We absolutely love the llamas. I kind of went into it like that's what was here before, so I'll just keep it up. It has been an amazing process because what we would witness, since we had 2 of them, and I think what made a big difference was that the relationship was that they would also we would see it once to twice a day. They patrol the fence line, the 2 of them. They would just walk off in different directions.
And they would mark it.
And they would just walk around, and you could tell that they were working, that they were doing that. So their presence they take their job very seriously. And then they also, if there is danger, they let out the alarm call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all the sheep run towards the llama. They don't run away from the llama, unlike a border collie. The border collie relationship, which is another way of handling sheep, which is more the sheep run away from the border collies. The sheep follow the llama.
The llama's the leader.
The llama's the leader, the protector.
And the sheep know that.
We have actually literally seen the sheep go under the llama's belly.
Aww.
That's misty.
And when we need
so when is it my turn? When are we talking about ponies?
Yeah, pretty soon we're gonna have to let her out.
Someone wants to be part of the show here.
Yeah. So
Okay, when we need to move sheep around,
right.
we can halter the llama and the sheep will follow right behind. We can bring them on the road to another pasture. It works great.
Yeah, that's how we move them from pasture to pasture. Yeah. They just follow the llama.
And then now we'll say, I don't shear your sheep. You had somebody else shearing the sheep, and to kind of join in where I came into the picture, you had a previous shearer for your llamas, and often that's the case. Not everybody who shears sheep is going to shear llamas, and vice versa. And that particular shearer retired and was a friend of mine or a colleague, and then was nice enough to refer all of his clients, to me. So if people so choose, then it was just a nice transition where somebody wouldn't have to worry about finding, somebody else to be able to take care of their animals. So that's when I came in, which I think was maybe 4 years ago now?
I'd say 4 to 5. I was going to look back.
I know, me too. I should have looked. And at that point, you did still have the 2 llamas, and then now, unfortunately, just due to, I forget, age primarily.
Age.
Yeah, he seemed to, we're not exactly sure. One of those. He did have some. I did happen to notice that day. It could have been some neurological issue going on. And I just came up to the pasture and he was down, it's just how that happened, unfortunately.
So now it's been 2 years that you've just had the single llama.
And he's really stepped up.
Yeah. I was gonna say, and under a lot of circumstances, actually the original thought was that you would just have 1 llama as a guard. Because the early days, they would think that if you had 2 llamas, that the llamas would be too busy interacting with themselves and not really doing their job. I think that people have pretty much kind of dispelled that myth, if you will, but that was the early thought. So whether it's 2 or 1, as long as the predation is not terribly strong, you should certainly be able to handle, what you've got on your farm. And now your sheep are also getting older though, too.
Oh, they're very old.
Oh, yeah.
They are So unfortunately, we're going through that time that happens on farms where, they're all getting older. So, we've lost quite a bit, and we started with 18 sheep and we're down to 4. That's it. We're just down to 4. We've had a little bit of a tough, past few times, but not only tough in the fact that, we've provided a really good life for them. they are more like pets to us. They all have names. We can handle them all. It's so
We shear them, but we don't
we shear
use
them
for meat or
I do spin. It's been my hobby. I guess I'll put this in a little bit, but please. Oh, Bob has my blanket. This is what I'm working on now. So I've always been spinning their wool.
I'm gonna put this on me.
I know. So I've always.
This is wool from our sheep.
Yeah, from the
Jeannie
sheep.
spins
I
and
spin
crochets.
That's what I do. That's my my fiber contribution.
And honestly, I totally forgot, but now I remember you took me in to, I remember you have all the rovings like in different bins and things like that. So so I mean, and I really honestly forgot all about that. So
I do. So
great to see
all these years, I mean, it's not like from a particular breed. I mean, but for me, it's just been it's like meditation for me. It's like, that's my purpose for spinning. I do it every morning with my cup of coffee. It's my time to meditate, and I spin the wool. So these sheep have also given me I've been very happy with the wool, and we have, and I
lot of nice blankets.
I make a lot of blankets.
And they're very warm.
Very, very warm. Some of them I've made like
this
Queen.
Is Emily, right? And Beanie.
Beanie. That's the other thing. We name all our, and then
they came named,
Yeah.
So, because they were bottle fed.
Hey, well, that's the beauty of it, right? To be able to, treat them as family pets, and then to be able to create something. Most of the people that are with me in my community maybe don't necessarily have their own animals. A lot of people aspire to or like to live vicariously through. So, it's just kind of all full circle, and regardless, always trying to represent different aspects of it to make sure that we always put that whole picture together of, where our yarn comes from, and whether you're using it yourself, or in different cases, somebody might be farming these animals to provide fiber, for a company, for somebody else to buy it. So it's just nice to hear, the different stories. And I'm so glad that you brought that, because I totally forgot,
Yeah. My little one, I bring it with me, I just carry it around with me. And
now, of course, mind you, everybody, as I stay with them, which I'll have to dig up some more pictures, because it is absolutely beautiful, the view. And my favorite is there's a sort of a little loft up above the old barn, and the view's just beautiful. Big, great windows that I get to look out over the barn and the horses, when I stay there. But I'm still trying to work on job security a little bit, even though they're getting involved with the ponies, there might still be a little inkling of them, keeping some sheep and some sheep and some llamas. So, they haven't ruled that out totally. And I'm going to work my damnedest to make sure I still have a spot there, because I do absolutely love it. I mean, of course, all joking aside.
I will sort of backtracking, but just from my own personal experience, this is just at the time when we got the 2 guard llamas, it was just sort of recommended to get 2. But at that time, thinking that the 2 of them would like each other's company, just like you said. But since I now just have the 1, I have found that my relationship with that one particular llama is just so much nicer. Like that's one I know she wants out. In a minute, I gotta let her out.
Absolutely.
She's never in the barn. So she's probably wondering, what am I doing in here?
Hey, that's all right. That's the part of it that makes it fun. And and so tell Missy, we'll flash forward, right? So take us to now where your journey has become, and how you got involved with the Newfoundland pony. What is the Newfoundland pony? And that'll kind of get us into
and then I'll get this one out. So what happened was, and once Bob comes back, I'll close the door and let her roam. So we had the sheep going, we had donkeys, and this was in let's see, it was, we were busy. Can you shut that? Because
Yeah.
I'll let Misty out. So it was 2020 at this point, and
Just let her up.
yeah, could you let her up? So Bob had actually, one of my horses had passed away. She's just gonna come out.
Yeah.
I'll just mention, this is Misty. Can you
Okay.
see her good enough?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because
Well,
she was just like, what do I do?
Yeah, she's just gonna walk out. She's but I'll let her be, and I can talk to you about her. But what happened was one of our horses passed away from, again, old age, as well as one of our donkeys. So we had some open stalls, and Bob happened to read about an article that the Newfoundland Pony Conservancy Center was looking for some foster homes for some ponies, and that really got his attention. Why don't you say maybe why?
Yeah, I mean, my family's from Newfoundland. My grandparents were born there. My father was born there. I was almost born there. I'm a Newfoundland citizen by law, not by birth. But they ran a lighthouse in Newfoundland, actually.
Have the little picture.
We have a picture of it.
This is, if we can see it.
That's my
their
family's lighthouse right there.
That's wild.
And they lived there and ran
Okay,
the.
now I'm gonna be the one to ask the question because maybe somebody else does not know either. So describe or tell us, like, where would somebody find Newfoundland?
Yeah, I got a map. I'll show you.
And wait, while Bob is doing that, because I do try to pay attention to the chat, somebody was just asking to backtrack. Do you ever dye your own wool or do you leave it natural?
I leave it natural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do. I did attend, I've been around people that do dye. So I have some knowledge of it, but I don't. So all the colors are natural.
Beautiful. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, so Newfoundland is an island off of the coast of Canada, mainland. It's north of Maine. And
Here's the lecture.
Let's see here. Newfoundland is that island right there. Oops, it doesn't want to focus on that. Okay, there you go. That's Newfoundland right there in the Atlantic Ocean.
So is it considered part of Canada?
It's a part of Canada, but it's an island.
Okay.
Maine is south of Newfoundland, by a few thousand miles. So it's just north of Maine in a sense, but in the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Canada.
Nice.
And why don't you tell what Canada, do you know what Newfoundland is like? But it's a big rock.
It's kind of a tough island. And when people were trying to settle Newfoundland, the ponies were an important part of that process.
Yeah.
Now, do you still have family there?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I haven't been there in a long time, but we do have family there, and seeing this article about the Newfoundland ponies needing a foster struck me as, well, that's interesting. We needed to fill some stalls.
He tells me, go do something about it.
And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I read about the Newfoundland ponies and how they're rare and endangered and how they're a good working animal and how they like to work with people. And so, we reached out to them and said, hey, we have a few stalls available if you'd like to come look and see if this might be a nice home for your animal.
What was their role or what was their function? I mean, in terms of Newfoundland geographically and being a big rock and being, a rough, place in that sense. So how are the ponies specific to that area? What did they do? What purpose did they serve?
So the Newfoundland ponies, basically, they came over when Newfoundland was founded. A lot of ponies were brought over. Various ponies were brought over, and what they were used for was basically to help the people survive on that island. And the Newfoundland ponies are basically, they're called a heritage breed, which meant over time, the ponies they were free roaming and they would breed with each other. And then they started forming traits, characteristics that helped them survive specifically for Newfoundland, because it's a very, very harsh climate. And what they would help them with, they use them for everything. They use them to haul all the firewood, haul basically everything to make the homes, to get ice out of the lakes. They use them for everything. And they were free roaming. And at the end of the day, after they finished working with the Newfoundland ponies, they would just let them loose on the island. They survived. It's a very, very harsh climate. They would often, which is pretty unusual to me, they would eat kelp. They were known for eating, they would survive on seaweed. They would drink brackish water. They became very, very hardy animals. They were able to take the climate. Over time, the Newfoundland ponies, we can tell like their hoofs are different. Their tails are set down a little bit lower so that snow can slide off their backs. Their ears are smaller and thicker so that they're not as susceptible to frostbite. They have like a hood over their eyes so that, again, the climate, they can do better.
And so essentially you're saying these are all adaptations, just for maybe somebody who's not as familiar with, breeding and heritage breeds. So these are all adaptations that just kind of created themselves, because it's not like somebody was intentionally breeding.
No, it was created so that they could survive specifically in that environment. Mm-hmm. And then that changed their genetics, and that's what became the Newfoundland pony.
Now I have to ask, just because again, somebody was wondering, the lighthouse that belonged to your family, was it active?
Oh yeah, I mean the lighthouse was active at the time. Right now it's all automated. And again, this is on the west coast of Newfoundland, sort of facing in toward the interior of Canada. And this is the Gulf of St. Lawrence part of Newfoundland. It's the western coast, not the eastern coast. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they manned the lighthouse for quite a long time, and then it became an automated thing, so it wasn't required anymore. But and
now I'm just curious. So, like, was the lighthouse theirs, or was it like part of?
It was theirs.
Okay, so it's not like it was I don't know, even know, like a property of the town. It was like their actual lighthouse.
It was their lighthouse, indeed. And then the government came and said, we're going to ask you to help us do this. And then over time, it became government property.
Okay, yeah, I guess that was the word I was trying to find, whether or not it was government owned, but just happened to be on, your family's property or not. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, hardy bunch of people, let me tell you. See, they came a lot this way. They would visit a lot, and wow, hardy people, very, very hardy.
So I love hearing about the adaptation of the ponies.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming then eventually somebody jumped in and was like, okay, this is now a breed. And, like anything else, there's a association or things associated with it. So flash forward, I'm not saying we need specific numbers, but I guess the first question I would ask is, because I know that you mentioned, were they in danger of becoming extinct, or they're just rare, or?
No, they are actually, what happened was up until the 1950s, there were probably 10,000 of them roaming Newfoundland, okay? And then the invention of the machinery, the automobile came in. Tractor. And so what was considered at one time a real partnership with the ponies, unfortunately, the ponies then became looked at as a nuisance. Mm-hmm. And also it's a hard, so because it was a nuisance, and it was, it's hard to feed them and to now take care of them, they started being shipped off the island, and they ended up in slaughter. And the numbers went down.
So is that just because the citizens of Newfoundland just no longer, I guess in a sense, cared about them or saw a purpose in them?
that's,
I think they were considered more of a nuisance.
it was considered more of a nuisance.
Then-
And it's again, it's,
Unfortunately, I mean, they helped build Newfoundland, the Newfoundland that's there now,
Yeah.
build. But when the machinery came along, the amount of ponies became a nuisance.
and they were really considered work animals. And if their work, I think, was no longer necessary, then they could move on. Unfortunately, that moving on led to a tremendous amount of slaughter. And as I don't have these numbers, this is not a role that I usually talk about. I can be roughly,
Exactly.
I think in the 80s, they were down to somewhere between 100 and 200, down from 10,000 of them.
Mhm.
Okay. And under 2,000 is considered critically endangered.
Are they part of, now is that as part of the Livestock Conservancy?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so for anybody who might not know, there is an organization called the Livestock Conservancy. It has a longer name, but essentially it's an organization that plays a key role across all species in terms of looking at various breeds of all species and then categorizes them in different ways so that as they see something, whether it's critical, endangered, extinct, there's different things. So for instance, I'm not even intentionally tying this in, it's just this is how it all goes full circle. So the Cotswold curls, the work that Kimberly and I have been doing with the Cotswold breed of sheep, for instance, at one point as part of the Livestock Conservancy, Cotswolds were considered a rare breed of sheep. And so then when this organization saw that their numbers were dropping, then that's when people get involved, they get involved and help to bring the numbers back up so that they don't become extinct. So now they're no longer considered a rare breed. They're certainly not extremely popular, but that's probably something that we hardly ever talk about. And the same reasons being, as far as what they were saying, was because the Cotswolds were a rug wool. And once they were no longer using real wool for rugs, and when synthetics came into play, that's when this breed started to drop off in like the 1940s because they just didn't have that same role. And so this happens across the board, whether it's ponies, sheep, or anything like that. So
Yeah,
it all
exactly.
ties in. And so I'm assuming now, do you know, and again, statistically it doesn't matter, but
Yep.
was it like was it somebody in Newfoundland that jumped in and was like, we've got to save these, in combination with the Livestock Conservancy?
So actually, and again, my knowledge, and again, I will say my role, it has been a lot to do with caring for fosters, but I certainly do the best I can. There are other people that are the executive director of the Conservancy, Emily Aho, who actually founded this organization with her husband, George.
It's state-based. It's not Canada-based, right?
Ours is state-based, right?
Canada has its own.
And that's what I was
They
just
do.
going to say.
Okay.
So I believe in the 80s, when this became pretty alarming, like these ponies were going to be gone, I mean, off the face of the earth, gone forever. Canada did form, they have what's called the Newfoundland Pony Society. And that has also been clicking along. So we're the Newfoundland Pony Conservancy, they're the Newfoundland Pony Society. And they're also a very well-run organization that now has even more in recent years, although I believe they were formed in the 1980s, but it's taken a while. They are getting government support now as well.
They have sanctuaries.
Now they're starting to get sanctuaries. But I am going to say, though, just to put some things in perspective, again, after all those years, the number of the Newfoundland pony at best, worldwide is about 600 ponies in the entire world.
Now,
So if we entire world. Now, if we compare that to a quarter horse, there's, about, well, the registry is 6 million of them. 6 million are registered, and with the Newfoundland ponies, there's just a little bit over 1,000. So the numbers are, you know, where there are 18,000 quarter horses born every year. This year, we're not sure if it was anywhere between 20 to 25
Of the Newfoundland ponies that were born, just to
that
give-
were born. So if you compare 18,000 to 20 to 25, and in fact, 4 of them were born under, yes, we are actively breeding. The organization, ours, we had 4 this year, which was huge. It was like, that's, and we are, you know, that's a whole sort of separate focus. Thank you.
And also to answer Sue's question, and you know, and I appreciate, and sometimes I don't necessarily jump in, but the questions tonight are very sort of informationally based, which is wonderful. So in terms of using the term pony, it's not referring to a young horse, it's referring to size. So,
yes, it's size.
Horse and pony is measured in hands, so anything under a certain size, technically 14.2, is considered a pony, and so that would be the denomination.
One thing that's quite interesting, just if we're going to talk about size with Newfoundland ponies, is although, and we just have a pretty nice example here, is they vary in size so much, which is very interesting. Like, so we have one pony here. I'll just use small size, you know, 11 hands if we want to. So we have 11 hand pony.
And guys, every hand equals 4 inches.
4 inches.
Just a little information.
Yes. And these ponies are, because they were built to pull, like that's what they do. They pull.
That's what I was gonna say. You told me they're more of like a draft pony.
Oh, they are like a draft.
They're like mini
They're
Clyde.
like linebackers.
Yeah.
They're like mini Clydesdales.
They
They're
are.
huge, their hoofs are huge.
No, well,
And, you know, so that's the way they were built for Newfoundland.
it's really like their necks and their, I mean, I have been around horses for so long. I mean, I had quarter horses and paint horses. These ones are, I guess I'll give my little quick story of it, like just for an example, like if anybody, we had one, she's behind us. She's,
Should I bring Misty over?
we'll leave her there for now.
Okay.
One pony that was brought to the farm, new. I just needed to corral her for a few minutes. So she got put into a barn that had, if you're familiar with 12-foot panels, very heavy panels. It takes 2 of us to move them. And there were 15 of them going all around the barn. So she had a corral. We put her in there. And in 45 minutes, we came back. She had put her head under them and dragged all 15 panels off the barn about 100 feet away. It's mind-blowing that she was able to do that.
And the panels were attached with eye bolts.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like a tractor trailer.
Definitely a tractor type pull.
Like would pull that. And she's just a little 13-hand pony, like a mid-sized pony. So we have, and then we've had very large ponies here. We've had a 14.2 pony and we have 11. So they vary a lot in size, but as you said, they're still ponies.
Nice. Yeah, and somebody was asking, I mean, so for instance, a quarter horse is maybe, you know, a larger size, but even with a quarter horse, it could still be 15 hands, or they could probably be 16 hands, which doesn't sound like a big difference. So there's always variables, you know, in that sense. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you figure like a hand measurement, guys, the old fashioned way was doing this, which equals 4 inches, and you would go from the base of the hoof, the floor, to what's called the withers, which is where the neck and the back meets. So it's a little hard if you don't have them standing next to each other perspective wise. But I know while we're talking, I mean, I know that people would love to see.
Yeah, we're trying to get her over here. I can tell you about Misty a little bit. So Misty, this is the one who I just happened to bring up. I got other ones, but Misty is actually 27 years old, and she
now somebody's probably going to ask, so give us the idea of what the lifespan is for
yeah, I mean, they can live up until they're 40, but that is still a pretty you know, middle-aged older middle-aged horse, pony, sorry. Here she comes. I wish I could turn this. Come here, Mist. Here she goes. Okay, great. So she's 27. She's gonna put herself back in. Their temperament is, that's the other thing about their temperament, is that they're very easygoing. They're people-pleasing type ponies, because they were always they're work ponies.
Right.
They very rarely spook. I've also had, we had one foal that was born here. There she is. We had one foal that was born here, and I can honestly say, although she's now 3, I haven't done an ounce of training on her because I've never had to. I mean, I just put a halt, there was just, they don't need that. Like, she was great.
There's this like innate sense
Yeah.
of, desensitization.
You don't do any of that.
They are a work animal. It's kind of like what they're born to do.
The more natural, like, there's no, like there would be no need to desensitize, like you said. When the vet came the next day, I was to put a halter on. This is right after she was born. I mean, the following day, you can just, she's fine for the vet. When the farrier came, whenever that was, you could pick her feet up. When I want to lead her, you lead her, stick her on a trailer. Like, there's just no, training involved. We have another one who's now, she's a foster here, but she'll probably be a riding pony as well. And her training, we tend to not like to think of riding until they're closer to 5 or 6. It will just be, this is the time, get on her and go. Like, that is literally.
That would be, guys, because in terms of the overall development for bone growth and even, mental capability, a lot of times animals are considered mature at 2, but then they are still continuing to grow and really considered more of an adult by the time they're 5.
Right. And so with Misty, Misty's story, which is kind of unfortunately somewhat typical of the Newfoundland ponies, was that she lived in Newfoundland for many, many years, and she had many, many foals, like a lot of foals, and a lot of them died. Most of them died. And then the males, they were all gelded. So the reproduction, there are no offsprings of Misty, and that we know of, I should say, that we know of. She worked in Maine, and she plowed potato fields. That was what her job was. And eventually, whenever her time, I guess, was done plowing potato fields, she ended up in a rescue. And the Conservancy got wind of her, as well as another pony that we have here, that the 2 of them were in a rescue. They got pulled out of the rescue. Our group brought them both to New Hampshire. Misty they did try to breed her, but unfortunately found out that she has pretty extensive melanoma, which is not uncommon. She has extensive melanoma, and it was unsuccessful.
Now, that's what I was going to ask you also, because so Misty is what we would, and correct me if I'm wrong, even though she looks white, right?
Yeah.
We consider them a gray.
Right, yes.
So, but I didn't really remember Misty, because everybody else, I mean, now when I think about it in the pictures, is she your only gray?
Yes.
So
yes.
Why is she gray when most of the other ones I know that I've seen,
Yeah.
be, guys, what we consider a bay, so they're kind of like a brown black color. So
right.
Why is she different?
They have those variations.
Okay.
The other pony that we had here, unfortunately, he did pass away, just again from natural causes, and he was a large pony. He was a roan. He was a color changer, if that's something that I should explain.
Probably people won't know that,
because it was really interesting. The way his appearance would be in the middle of the winter, he would be black, a very, very dark color black. And in the summer, he would be white. He would be white. So he was a color changer because he has under, we can just let her off. Can you let her? That's another color. So they do have different colors as well. Yeah.
Now,
So,
what's the difference? I mean, in terms of, so you talk a little bit about fostering, but I also know some of them are yours. So,
yes, yeah.
So what is I'm sure somebody might ask, okay, the ones that are yours, we get that. You bought them, you own them. But the ones that you're fostering, does that mean that they're ultimately going to go somewhere else? Who do they belong to?
Yeah. Okay. So, right. So Misty we own, but we have 3 here that are in foster. And they are basically, they are part of the Conservancy. People have to put a name with them so that they're owned by somebody, but they're owned within the Conservancy. So
reason for you owning some and you fostering some as opposed to just them all.
I know, it's like no, we don't. I know we foster partly to help out. I'll tell you the other 2 that are in a different, they're outside. We use them, I should say I work with them. What I also use these ponies with, I do equine-assisted learning here, which is something, it's a little bit different than the hippotherapy that I did. I also got certified in that. It's not a therapy-based program. And I got certified out of Equine Connection out of Alberta, Canada. And we have right now mostly veterans and their families coming onto our farm, and they work on basically what we call life skills, things such as anything from working on body language to communication to getting, a lot has to do with the symptoms of PTSD.
I was just going to say, so these are veterans that are suffering from PTSD.
Yeah.
A form of help for them.
A lot of that. And so these ponies are absolutely perfect for this. Absolutely perfect. And so I also have the other 2 that I foster, they were working up in Arcadia, Maine, the park up there, Arcadia Park, pulling carts and pulling people. And over the years, they were rescued as well. And so they're here as a foster, but it's a partnership. I foster them, but I also have them working with the veterans, and they've been tremendous.
They help in recovery too.
What is?
He says, and they're helping with.
They help people in recovery.
Oh, the other recovery. We have another farm. The other farm that we are associated with, where there are Newfoundland ponies, has to do with like substance recovery as well.
And I was going to say, guys, for everybody who's with us this evening, it's kind of like a little foreshadowing, because I have another guest, I think the day after New Year's, I can't remember. But anyway, my friend Allie Kennedy, who's another shearing client of mine, she has a not-for-profit farm. I mean, yours is different in that sense, but she utilizes her animals to do grief work. So she has people coming to her farm, and very similar, just a different path. But I just think it's interesting that we're going to be hearing from 2 different people that are utilizing their animals, to help people in the community that, suffer from various things. And so it just kind of all ties in that sense, just different animals, but the same concept in mind. So it's amazing.
I've just found this particular breed has been great for it. Their size is really nice.
Yeah, not too overwhelming, right? Because a lot of people have a fear of horses.
Yes.
On their size. I know that's something I come across a lot of times. So yeah, the smaller the animal, it's easier for them to be able to feel comfortable and assimilate with them. And yet at the same time, that's very empowering then,
And they truly, it's not that they can't, so I'm not, but they do not spook very much. Like, they've been brought to parades where firecrackers and fireworks are going off. And so just to have that aspect of it is
That calmness. So for anyone who doesn't know, to say that a horse spooks, that means that they get scared or startled. They might jump. Sometimes they might drag you 20 feet. So
right.
that desensitization to their surroundings is what makes them suitable for the work that she's doing.
Right.
Calmness, because you could imagine somebody with PTSD, the last thing you need is to be working with a horse that's going to be startled by something. So that common sense, I'm sure, is perfect.
And they do have a really good work ethic. I mean, there's just something about that. They're considered a partnered breed, that they like to partner up with people, and that's what they do. I mean, they just really do. I mean, she could be way over there, and they do just sort of choose to be around. And she's had a pretty rough life, truthfully. Like, for her to be as nice as she is pretty remarkable.
Somebody was asking
Yeah.
in terms of whether or not these Newfoundland ponies are different, but as a breed, do they, because it's true, some animals like to be singular, do they find comfort in herds, or are they kind of one person ponies?
Okay. Oh, herd all the way. And the herd is so interesting. They do very well. Now, the interesting thing about Misty is she is always the very, very lowest of the herd. And at least here, around here. So my answer is yes. They certainly work in a herd, and they work very well together. So.
But
In fact, I can give another example of a herd, which just happened not that long, like maybe a week or two ago, which was I could hear something in the woods, and the ponies started lining up together, working together, and they were just all in tune as a group. And basically it was because there was a moose. There was a moose that was right near the fences, and they were all going to basically, do something with this moose. But like, that was an example of them really coming together as a team, and to, whatever they were acknowledging that there was a moose there.
I'm still saying I have yet to be able to see a moose in person. So we're going to need to work on this. We need to extend my time on the farm. That is still a goal of mine.
He was huge, a big bull moose.
Big antlers.
Big, huge. He was huge. And like I said, they all worked together, and they formed a line, and they were just watching the moose, and they were following him until he turned and ran off. So, yeah.
Now, somebody was asking, and actually it was a thought that I had as well, so I appreciate it. Jillian was asking, so in terms of, you were talking about Misty being, the bottom, of the lowest part of it. So, I mean, I'm sure people are familiar with pecking order when we talk about chickens, but really all animals, even my llamas, they have what we would call a pecking order. And amongst the herd, they know who's 1 and who's 5, or however many animals you have. They have an order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say. Now, interestingly enough, I guess what I was thinking is sometimes for me, with my experience with the animals, sometimes it's based on age. And I'm telling you, I have no idea how they know who's the eldest and has seniority, but sometimes it is also based on personality, and some animals are just a bit more of a wallflower and not going to, assert their dominance. So Misty, isn't she the oldest that you have, or no?
That's the youngest one making all that noise. So the interesting thing is that you mentioned this. The smallest pony that we have she is the absolute boss. Like, she is the top.
What was the question?
About the pecking order.
The only one lower than Misty is the donkey.
Yeah. I'm not even sure. I think
like
the donkey
class.
The donkey takes her food as well.
I don't think so.
So it's a personality. So we have, and I can start showing you. So
I was just
Yeah,
I didn't know. Are you able to, as you're talking,
Yeah.
just to show us some of the others?
can we walk around and do-
Absolutely,
wanna see that?
absolutely.
Plug it.
Not to say that we don't want to see you, but even if
Yeah.
you
All right,
camera-
I guess Bob's having me be the one to do this,
Well,
but
I'll
can you
do it
do
if
it?
you want.
Yeah, it'd be easier if you can do it. Just
Okay.
all you have to do is that. Okay, and you
Okay.
can let us know if we're not doing this right.
Oh, you're okay. I mean, just there we go.
That's Misty.
All right, Misty's gonna go in.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye, Misty. Are we okay on this?
Yep, you're doing
So-
great.
All right, so I'm gonna bring you over here, and this is, let me see. Oh, this is Clover.
You're gonna close that or leave it open?
So Clover.
Or do you want to get
No,
Isla?
let's do Isla.
Isla was born here.
I can let her out. Here comes Isla. Come on out, Isla. She was born here. She was, when she was born, there was possibly 20 of them born in the world that year. Possibly. So she was one of 20. Are we able to see
Okay.
her?
I don't know.
No, we've lost her.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Do you see her on the screen?
Yes, we've got it.
Yeah. So she's on the smaller side. She is now 3. She's 3 years old.
Am I doing this good?
Can you lower it?
Yeah, just lower it a little bit.
There
you
we go.
I can't see what's
Yeah, I know. So
happening.
here she is. This is Isla. She's 3 years old. Can you go, let's see, down a little bit more? Yeah. And she's a little bit on the smaller side. But like I said, when she was born, there were at the maybe 20 of them born that year in the entire world. So if you can keep following me.
I think so.
You gotta go lower. Are you able to see this?
Yep, we can see her. We can see her head.
I'm gonna just let her be.
Sure.
Honestly, they are so kind of quiet that, let me see, where the camera, why aren't we?
I was gonna say, and if I might offer, you might have a way to just turn the view around so that you can see what you're looking at.
How would I do that?
Yeah, we're not technologically
That's
advanced.
okay. There's usually a button that kind of has like a little circle almost. It's that allows you to change the view.
We don't have a backside to this.
I'm afraid if I'll,
There's no backside to this tablet. It's just a front side.
yeah, I'm gonna have you hold it for me again.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can just point it down, we're kind of looking at the ceiling. There.
Ah, oh,
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. I mean,
There
why
you
don't we just stay with that so we don't.
so that's her. So one thing about them too is they have a really, really thick mane. Are you able to see her okay?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. Really, really thick mane. These are her small ears. She has a narrow chest. That's another, she's gonna say hello. They tend to have a narrow chest. The narrow chest helps with one thing that was developed with keeping them warmer and keeping them cooler as well in the summer. The narrow chest also, their front feet are a little bit closer to one another, and that actually allowed them to climb on the rocks in Newfoundland. And I find that true around here. When I walk with them, it's pretty much amazing. They go up onto stone walls. They're very, very agile.
Which that might not make sense to people. So just for everybody who is watching, like horses climbing rocks and climbing rock walls, or even mountains is not a normal characteristic. It would be for a donkey, but not necessarily for a horse. So that's definitely the adaptation that they've had from the environment in which they, grew up and were raised in.
It's I don't worry at all. If I see them up on a stone wall, which is, I mean, here in New Hampshire, we have so much granite and so many, I just say, oh, they're fine. They're like, they literally are walking on stone wall. Perfect. Yeah. So it's, I mean, my other horses, I mean, I don't want to say klutz, but that's what they were. I mean, I'd see a broken leg if I saw that.
Exactly.
Let's see what else.
I know it might be a little hard with the view, but I'd actually also be interested when you were talking, you got to go down a bit, Bob. When you were talking about the hind end and the slant on the rump, again, that would be something different for people that they wouldn't otherwise know. But I thought that was really interesting when you mentioned that their hindquarters were designed like that so that the snow would fall off. It's kind of like having your slanted, roof with a certain material in which the snow falls off. So the same thing for them.
For the tail is set low. Come on this way. I mean,
Is that good?
Come down. There, perfect.
It is also very, very thick. This is a very thick tail and it's set down lower, so that the snow would slide off. And if it's a snowstorm, I mean, this is a very unusual night, and that's why I'm very happy, just a tad lower, that these animals are not inside this time of year. They are outside in our fields. They can come in, they have shelter if they want to, but they do not choose to come inside. Even if it's snowing outside, they stand out in the snow, and basically the snow is on them, and most of the time it's melting off them. You can see the steam coming right off them.
Well, it's just amazing. I mean, in terms
I'm not worried about them at all. In the summertime can actually be a little bit harder for them because there are that's perfect. The bugs and the mosquitoes is just a very different scenario than what they were
used to. Exactly. And then again, just for people to understand, if you're not a horse person by nature, in terms of them feeling comfortable having the ponies out in the snow, and in my world of growing up, doing English riding, and even probably with your previous horses, Jean, we would always talk about blanketing your
blanketing, right? I mean,
having blankets on them in the winter time to help keep their coat shorter, and so on the other hand, totally different. And I guess people were asking, so how cold would it normally get in Newfoundland?
That's a good question.
Well, it's roughly, I'm going to say 30-40 degrees lower than whatever we have here.
Yeah. Okay. And I think also what's really different with Newfoundland to make it very cold is that there's a lot of wind. The wind, and that can make it even feel colder.
Yeah.
The wind and the moisture, and of course the amount of snow that they get. So and they just have their ways of I mean, it's just what I find. If there's a snowstorm, they walk right out and they know where to turn to find where's the best place for them to stand. And by their choice, it's almost never inside.
We have blankets, but they don't want them.
I mean, I have some if I don't have one for her, but if I need to, I would, but it just wouldn't be right. They
don't want the blankets.
They don't have the blankets. So when she was born, again, she's a registered Newfoundland. I did the DNA testing on her. She's pure Newfoundland, and her registry again is happens to be 1001. So that's how many are registered as of, that would have been 3 years ago.
21.
Yeah, in 21.
Yeah.
So she's 1001. Yeah. So she was a big deal. The other really interesting story about her is her, and I'll just use the word father, the stud. He is on I'll say the mascot of the Newfoundland Pony Conservancy. That pony is actually her father.
He's on the logo.
He's the logo.
Oh, okay, so that would be
him.
this right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And his name is Ani.
Oh.
Okay, and he's and what happened with him was he's beautiful. He's a buckskin stallion. And he ended up, it's a long story and I'll make it really quick. He ended up in somebody's hands and he was severely injured. And he was so severely injured that his one of his hind legs was fractured. And again, the woman who founded this conservancy went and got him and went to get him and basically to bring him home to, unfortunately, to put him down, to give him peace. So he was about, I think he was like 5 years of age, and she brought him home to his farm, purebred Newfoundland stallion. And they said to her that, you know, he's young, maybe we'll see what happens. You know, maybe he can fuse. She's done tremendous work with him, a lot of care. And he's now 15 years old. And
in a sense, what you're saying is she was able to give him enough time to heal, repair, to have quality of life.
Yeah.
To be able to at least then be a sire for breeding
to
purposes.
be a sire. And,
Several times over.
and it was an actual live, you know,
versus
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He sired several.
But this was just her, was the big, that this was his first, and it meant a lot that, so we were able to keep his bloodlines going, which was
Sure.
a big deal.
And many of my people that are with me enough, they hear that talk, you know, as we talk about some of my girls that are only giving me boys, on the other hand, where I want maybe an offspring, a female offspring to continue that bloodline. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yep.
I think for most people, these are conversations, believe it or not, they hear about, but it's great to hear it tying in again, you know, with different species. Now, one of the things, but I think the answer will be yes, because we have to. Do you have to DNA test everybody in order to have them registered?
Yes. The answer is yes. And we have them registered through the Newfoundland Pony Society in Canada. That's
Okay.
who registers. Yeah, it's pretty.
I have a question, because with some breeds of sheep, it's impossible for them to be 100% easily. So for registry purposes, do they have to be 100% Newfoundlands, or is there a percentage that's accepted?
That I can't say for sure. Even though I went through the process with her, I thought it had to be 100%, but I thought it did have to be 100%.
And it could very well be, because it's certainly easier, you know, Canada versus US, where with some of the breeds of sheep, they're not able to bring those sheep over here. So that's why there's an acceptability in terms of, you know, different breeds. So I was just curious.
I think it might, to me, it was very strict. But I don't know about that.
And I would imagine, I mean, I'm going to answer also. So Jillian's also asking, in terms of with so few ponies in the registry, that I would imagine, thank you, Justine, for being with us. I would imagine inbreeding is not acceptable. Now, there is something called line breeding. So, you know, line breeding potentially might be allowed. But yeah, in any instance, you do not want to inbreed. That's certainly not going to help the preservation of the breed and the health and wealth, you know, overall, you know, for it.
I mean, that's one thing that has been found with this particular breed so far, is that there's been no known genetic abnormalities, and so they don't want any other, you know, crossbreeding to bring in any problems like that. So and for right now, for a 3-year-old little pony, she's being very, she has temperament. I'm like can't believe she's just standing here with me this whole time. I
No,
mean,
they're
it's,
very- they're
yeah.
very good.
Well,
They've
and I was going to
all-
say, in the interest of time, one thing
Okay.
I want to do before we lose people and as we
Yep.
start to wrap up, I need you to help me by picking a number. So,
Oh,
for instance, right now we've got about, well, it says 32, but there's 30 of us here. So, can you pick a number from 1 to 30, and that's going to be the person who's going to win the $20 store credit as our little giveaway for this evening?
just say a number out loud.
Yeah,
Oh,
just the
how
number.
about 25?
Okay, so I'm going to just scroll all the way down to the bottom. That'll be easier and count back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so I don't see a last name, but it says Ruth's phone. So Ruth's phone. If you is that Erin? Is that that's your mom? All right. Well, I'm not sure. With all due respect here, but okay, so I appreciate that. So I'm gonna go one up, and that's because these guys are my commentators. It's sort of like when you're working, you don't get to play. So actually, then that's gonna kick to Robin. So Robin, you are tonight's winner for our $20 store credit. Robin, I never know if I'm gonna pronounce your last name. I don't know. Andrade, but I know who you are. So Robin, congratulations for being with us this evening and winning the $20 store credit with us. Couple of things that I just want to make sure, and then we get in. I know Erin's been doing a great job with kind of keeping everybody up to date with stuff in the chat. So just again, some of our little housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Jean and Bob so we can just make sure we get any last minute questions or anything in there, and of course thanking them as well for their time. But I do want to say thank you to everybody also that's with us tonight. I know sometimes, again, when maybe the topic is a little bit off, from what we are all familiar with, to me, what I want to say is those of you that are here, this is just testament to just the natural curiosity and interest, not only in the program, but the people that we bring here and all of the different things that we learn. I love the completely geeked out, like scientific questions and comments that everybody has had. And for everybody who has, said just how much you're learning from something that's so unfamiliar to you, I absolutely love that. And I know other people are going to jump on and watch the recording, of course. So also taking the time to make sure that you guys look to our continued lineup. Because again, even tomorrow night is going to be a little bit different. As I mentioned to you guys, we have Catherine and Ashley. Ashley is a high school student who utilized the opportunity to
Help me out.
camp the program and the area where my llamas ended up going to camp. So it's going to be a little fun, a little whimsical, and also, as I mentioned to you, for the platform to be able to present her project as something that she needs to do. So I hope that you'll join us and help her in accomplishing her goal, not only for her project, but being able to educate us on what she did. And then, of course, hearing about the llamas being at camp. So I'll continue to, promote that as well. And so with that, we'll be wrapping up just for the interest of time, but who do you have with us now?
I just wanted to do this one quickly because she's not used to being inside. This is Clover. Clover is 4 years old. She is somebody that the Conservancy, she was born with us as well. But what I wanted to show, and I'll just sort of maybe walk her, is she's a much taller, full body Newfoundland compared to the one that I just brought. And she was one that probably could have a better potential more for riding under saddle.
You can even see like where she stands next to you, meaning you can see her size difference just based on her being next to you as well. You look a lot tinier now.
Do I? Right. And I'm gonna turn her sideways and you might just see her bigger barrel here. But
go down a little bit, Bob, with the camera. There we go.
Because so this is another one of the foals. She's the youngest, another one. She's 1 year older than the one that I just brought in. And the two of them have quite a ball together, let me tell you.
as naturally one would expect, the younger the animal, just like in terms of kids, you know, the higher the energy, usually more antics, regardless of how calm they are. I'm sure they have more fun than some of their older herd mates.
And it's really nice for them. They go galloping and running. But then, like, for a young, I mean, for her to just stand right here is really nice as well. Yeah. But I just thought, this is Clover, and she's very, very friendly. She's had to learn her body a little bit. She'll sort of walk right into you, but that's Clover. So I'll put her back in.
That's good, okay.
Okay.
There you go, perfect view. Yeah, you can definitely very easily see the difference, you know, in her size. And so, you know, we'll wait for Jean to put Clover away, and hopefully then we'll get Jean back to the camera, of course. But again, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for all of your questions, you know, that you've had for this evening. And I'll definitely be looking forward to your feedback, you know, from tonight as well. And in terms of, again, don't forget to catch the full lineup that we've got coming up. Next couple of days are kind of going to be a little bit different, a little bit of everything. And then, of course, hopefully you guys, even if you have fancy plans for New Year's Eve, don't forget our program is at 7 p.m. So I guess, I don't know, too many of you probably aren't going to be, hopefully, going out gallivanting. I always say it's kind of amateur night. So I don't know about you. We stay home, we stay safe, and you know, have our own little party. So we're definitely looking forward to spending New Year's Eve with Linda Courtright again, Wild Fibers. So there, we've got Jean back now with us.
Yeah.
We'll put
So
us
I
back.
think, I mean, overall, there you go, good. We got both of you guys back. We'll get you back, back into view. So as we kind of wrap up, I mean, I guess my curiosity would just be in terms of what your goals are. In terms of being involved, you know, with these. Do you have any mares that are going to foal in 2025?
We haven't, not as of yet, but there will, we just went through, like I said, there were 4 that were fairly recently born, and none are bred at the moment. But that will be in the works. For sure.
And then in terms of the numbers, because actually I don't think I didn't ask. So how many do you have?
Me personally?
Yes.
In this, I have 7 on my farm.
And then you have the 3 fosters.
No, I have 4 that I own, and then the 3 fosters.
Okay. And
yes.
So are you full at the inn?
I am full at the inn at the moment, I would say so.
And then the fosters, I mean, are they indefinitely with you at this point? Is that how it works?
Like the 2, I mean, not indefinitely, you know, it was just sort of a need that needed, you know, they sort of needed some placement, and it works. So the answer is no. But it's certainly a breed that I'm committed to, and so
didn't you guys mention to me when I was there in the spring that you were thinking of creating a little educational center that the people who are coming to the mountain for hiking, that they would have an opportunity, right, to get in?
Right. That's part of the whole, like, that's certainly a goal that we have a nice space. And I think it's in a nice location. And where that's in the works as well. We've done work to the area to get it all. We just need to get it in the spring to get it up and going. Yeah, that would be what we really are. Our next thing that we really want to do is get our keep continuing with our community outreach. Good. And have an area too that maybe volunteers can come and go, and that's what that area would be for.
And then, of course, the work with the veterans that you mentioned as well. I'm sure you're looking to continue that. Do you have any plans to expand that into other areas?
We do. Yeah, we've certainly, we're certainly increasing the number of programs with the veterans. But with our programs and our training, this program also can work really well. There's different programs that you can work specifically with women. There's also trauma, younger children, any kind of bullying, all of that are programs that are really effective. And we have the training and we have the ponies. So,
Yeah.
so we're just kind of rolling all of that out. And that's what we're trying to focus on.
And I only want to just tie it in because even though Alex didn't remain with us, and that's part of her, she doesn't sit still for very long. But when you just mentioned that, and I know she'd be fine with me mentioning, she actually equally, because she's so into the horses, she does her own horse therapy, meaning instead of going to counseling and just sitting in a room, it's
Yeah.
based on a farm, with a horse and helping to be able to, bridge the ability to feel comfortable, communicate. So
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting. I'd never thought about that when you were talking
Yeah.
to with the veterans, but again, something very similar that she's involved in, and I know very helpful, for her.
So like the difference that what my particular training is, and at this point is we do more what's called facilitation. Like, so it's different than therapy. So we actually, the ponies are considered the teachers, and they do the teaching and we do the facilitating. We just step back and let it all happen. And it's very, very natural. And that's what's really neat about it. It's we let them really do the work. They do a lot of teaching, and that's why that's a little bit different than therapy, but it's the ponies are just perfect for that. Yeah.
I know, I mean, for me to be able to share, I mean, again, not only is your farm beautiful, so just overall, people coming to that environment is soothing and very peaceful. And also the fact that you guys have found yourself in a position of which you're able to give back, to the community, taking something that you enjoy and love, but, also giving back, because you can, and you're in a position to be able to do so. And so
yeah, really, we think it's just been, we find that people have really they get a lot out of just being around the ponies, as well as, like you said, the environment. People have been walking them through the trails, just grooming them, learning about them, and the fact that there is a lot of history with them. I mean, it's trying to prevent the loss of a species. I mean, once they're gone, they would be there. There's no coming back from that. So we kind of feel like any little thing that we can do, we're going to try to do. And it's helping both, we're hoping both people and the ponies.
That's exactly, I mean, I was waiting for you to finish because that was the thought in my head, and then you did that perfectly. I mean, really synergy between the programs that you have. It's not only helping the people in the community, but it's also helping the ponies. So, them are helping each other, which is amazing.
We find it's kind of like a win-win in a lot of ways. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the ponies that are at my place are more the rescue group, and we do find they're kind of more ambassadors, and what we give them good homes, and we help further the education. And so that's why I find it's really I keep thinking it's a win-win for both ponies and people.
Well, hopefully in the end we will still continue on with some Fibered Friends, so I can still be there. But I want to, first of all, just say thank you so much for being a part of the 12 Days of Christmas, being willing to do this. I know you don't spend a ton of time Zooming like the majority of the rest of us.
We don't.
Guys, they really kind of went out on a limb to get this set up and feel comfortable with it, to be in the barn, to have the ponies for us, and to make it exciting that way. So I really do appreciate your time and sharing your joy and your passion and sharing your ponies. And honestly, for me too, with everybody that follows me for what I call my Shear and Share tour, now it's going to just even tie it in more. So next year, guys, towards the end of my season, which is when I start to head up north, you'll really be able to have a better sense of appreciation, for just one of the many farms that I go to and have a chance to work for, and the diversity of the people that I have a chance to work for, as well as the animals that I get to work with, is really what I find so special about my job as a shearer, not just the shearing. I always say that it's really about the travels, it's about the people, it's about the animals. You know, the shearing just happens to be the facilitation, I guess, of how I get to be there. So,
Yeah, but you are one good shearer, I will say.
well,
As well.
We love it. Come.
We do. We really love it that you come, and we definitely appreciate you sort of putting up with our lack of sort of our technical skills here. But we hope you got to see enough of the ponies. You know, this time of year is a little different, trying to be inside with them for such outdoor creatures. But we really, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's just a testament to who they are in Newfoundland and their nature of not wanting to be confined, you know, not wanting to be in stalls and wanting to be out and wanting to be free. So make sure you give them some extra treats and tell them we said thank you as well for their patience.
I will. Yeah, we've been pretty proud of them. I mean, I think it's really funny. She just, you know, she just wants to step out of her stall.
Well, guys, I want to thank you. You go in, get warm. I'm going to do the same. And I want to say thank you again to everybody who has stayed with us for this evening's programs. Look forward to seeing everybody again tomorrow night. And with that,
I do have one quick thing, just talking about technology, since is that for any other information, it is the newfoundlandponies.org.
okay.
is the Newfoundland Pony Conservancy group's website that we're affiliated with, and there's a lot of beautiful pictures and information if anybody's interested. We don't have our own website.
Thank you for dropping that. I do appreciate that. I will definitely make a point to kind of attach that. And I was just going to say, so Erin just dropped the link right in the chat. So anybody who's interested in checking that out, if you enjoyed tonight's program. And look, hey, I mean, if anybody is ever up in the New Hampshire area, they are Fitzwilliam area and the mountain range that they talked about, plenty of hiking and beautiful.
Yeah, right near Monadnock, very popular hiking. And then as well as if you don't want such a large hike, Gap Mountain is perfect.
It's gorgeous to look at. So.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
All
thank
right.
you again.
Well, thank you. And we do wish everybody happy holidays as well.
And same to you guys. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of it.
Thank you.
It's fun.
I appreciate you as well, Bob. Thanks for being a great cameraman.
It's very fun. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys. I'll see you
Bye.
soon. Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Take care.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Bye.